Title: I took a job monitoring a forest that doesn't exist on any map. Groundo: I didn't think much of the job posting when I first saw it. It was on a weird local job board, some offshoot forum I hadn't visited in years. The listing was short and vague. Overnight surveillance needed, minimal interaction, high pay, must be comfortable with solitude, location undisclosed until hired. It sounded shady as hell, but I was broke, behind on rent, and I'd just lost my job at the warehouse after that stupid forklift incident. So I applied. 2 days later, a black SUV picked me up outside my apartment. No logos, no driver name. Just a man in a gray windbreaker who handed me a waiver I had to sign before even being told what the job was. Act 1: The Forest Arrival. We drove for hours into the mountains, but the GPS on my phone stopped working halfway up. Eventually, we turned onto a dirt path I didn't see on any map. No signs, no gates, just trees, thousands of them, thick and uniform, lining either side like soldiers. When we stopped, I saw the station. It was a small prefab trailer with metal siding, no windows, and a single blinking antenna on top. Inside, a desk, a space heater, a cot, a locked cabinet, and most importantly, 9 monitors, each showing a different part of the forest. I was told only one thing. If you see anything move on the cameras between midnight and 4 a.m., write it down. Do not open the door.
Was that? I would say it was his.
That first night was quiet. Nothing on the feeds, just static trees swaying in the wind. I figured the whole thing was some weird government research post or a drug drop zone. But by night 3, I saw something. It was on monitor 6, a shape, pale, like a person, but not moving right. The head was too smooth. It was standing completely still between the trees, just far enough that I couldn't make out the face. Then it vanished between one camera frame and the next. I marked the time in the log, 2:33 a.m. When I looked back up, the door handle of the station twitched, like someone was jiggling it from outside, but I didn't open it. By the end of the first week, I'd seen that shape on 4 different cameras. Sometimes it stood still for hours. Sometimes it crawled unnaturally fast between trees, always just out of view. Once, it stood next to a tree that wasn't there the day before, and each time I saw it, the door handle would move again. One night, it tried knocking. Not knocking like a human, knocking like something that hadn't learned how to do it correctly. 3 hard knocks, one soft, then scratching long, slow scratches from top to bottom. I asked the man in the windbreaker about it when he came to drop off food and swap tapes. He just said, "Don't look directly into the cameras after 3 a.m. That's when they can see you back." What the hell does that mean? By week 2, the cameras started glitching. Not just static, but frames skipping. One night at 2:41 a.m., the forest on camera 2 reversed for 3 seconds, like the trees themselves were breathing backward. And then on night 12, I made a mistake. I saw the pale figure up close on monitor 9. It was standing right outside the station. Its arms were too long. Its hands were wrong. Not claws, not fingers, just divided skin. And I looked directly into the feed. It blinked. Not the figure. The camera. The lens blinked like an eye, and my ears started bleeding. I blacked out. When I woke up, the station door was open. There were footsteps leading out into the forest. Barefoot. Human-looking, but I never left. At Act 5, the others. The next night, all 9 cameras showed different versions of me in the forest. One was sitting at the base of a tree, chewing something. Another was sleeping, standing up like an unplugged marionette. One had no face and kept tilting its head toward the camera. I checked the logs. The previous watchmen had all seen the same thing. Dozens of logs spanning years. Each ended the same way. If you see yourself out there, never look away. Don't let it notice you. Final act, escape twist. I wanted to quit. I packed my things. I waited for the black SUV. It didn't come. The antenna on top of the station began blinking in a new pattern. Morse code, I think, but it wasn't English. The blinks were too long, too drawn out. I decided to walk. I marked my path with orange tape from the cabinet. But the trees, they moved behind me. Every time I turned around, the path was gone. I found my own tape again, but it was old, weathered, like it had been tied years ago. And then I saw the forest's edge. Not a clearing, not a road, but a cliff. A perfect vertical cliff, like someone had cut the world open with a blade. Beyond it, just static, like TV static, like the edge of a feed. I ran back, the station door was open again, but the cameras were all off, except monitor 1. It showed a new angle, not the forest, not the trees. It showed me sitting in the chair, typing this log, but I'm not typing. I don't know who is, and I don't know how to leave. 2. The logs that wrote themselves. Here's the weird part. I don't remember getting up from the chair. The last thing I recall was seeing myself on monitor 1. I was watching me, watching the forest, but I wasn't moving. Then I blinked, and now I'm in the cot, fully dressed, my boots still muddy, the heater buzzing. I checked the logbook. Someone wrote 6 pages in my handwriting, but I didn't write them. Act 1, Phantom Shifts. Each entry is dated ahead of the current day. 1 is marked tonight. It reads, 3:12 a.m. Don't answer the tapping. It's not a hand this time. 3:44 a.m. If monitor 6 turns off, it's already inside. 4:08 a.m. The screaming isn't coming from outside. It's in the static. Do not mimic it. I flipped to the back of the log. The last page was blank until I blinked. Then a sentence appeared. Turn around. I didn't. Act 2, Duplicate Weather. The weather doesn't match. Outside the station, it's overcast still. But on monitor 3, the forest is covered in snow. On monitor 8, the trees are bending under rain. On monitor 2, it's daytime. And I swear I see a helicopter hovering. But there's no sound, just that soft white hiss. Except for monitor 5, it started whispering. Not audio, text scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Are you new? Did you bring your own body? Have you read the rules written in root systems? I muted it. It unmuted itself. Act 3, The Tree That Remembers. I stepped outside, only for a moment, just to prove I still could. The air smelled different. Not fresh, not rotten either, like plastic that learned how to breathe. About 200 feet out, I found a tree with something carved in it. Not letters, names, hundreds of them, spiraling around the bark like a helix. Some were scratched out, some were upside down, but I saw mine. My full name. Even the middle name I never tell anyone. Next to it, an empty box, like a checkbox, with the faintest imprint of a check mark being drawn right then. Act 4, The Room Below the Station. Back inside, I noticed a seam in the floor beneath the cot. I pried it open with a fork. A hatch. Beneath it, a ladder descending into darkness. I lit the emergency lamp and climbed down. The space below the station was much, much larger than the building itself. It was like a massive server room, but organic. The cables were wrapped in bark. The fans breathed. Rows of file drawers, each labeled with a date I haven't lived yet. I opened one. Inside, a VHS tape labeled, Your Escape. I brought it upstairs, plugged it into the old TV. The footage was of me, running through the forest, screaming, my mouth moving, but no sound until the final frame, my face staring at the screen and blinking backward. Act 5, The Things That Borrow You. The next few nights, blurred. Time bent in loops. Sometimes the shift would end and restart in seconds. One night I counted 14 moons. Another, the monitors all showed different versions of me working in parallel. One had no arms, one had antlers, one was just a shadow typing nothing on a keyboard made of bone. They noticed me. One by one, they stopped and turned. Monitor 3 me held up a sign, we don't belong here anymore. Then Monitor 7 me opened their door and walked into Monitor 4's feed. They're not bound by screens anymore. Broadcasted memory leaks. The logs are growing without me. Every morning there are new entries, some written in blood, some in languages I don't recognize, one in keyboard layouts that don't exist. The antenna on the roof now spins in circles, slowly warping into a corkscrew shape. At 3 a.m. it starts humming. The tone burrows into my skull like a drill made of sorrow. One night I recorded the sound, played it backward. It said, unplug the body, we need the wires. Act 7, The Forest That Grew Inside. I coughed this morning and leaves came out. Tiny ones, fresh, green. I looked in the mirror and my pupils were no longer round. They were rings, like the age lines of a tree. I don't think I can leave anymore. Not because I'm trapped, because I've become a peripheral, an input device. Plugged into something I don't understand. And outside in the fog, I saw the SUV that brought me here. Empty, engine running, no tracks leading in. Just moss growing across the dashboard in the shape of a face. Final scene, return of the monitor feed. Monitor 1 just turned back on. It's showing a room again. Not the station, A hospital room. Someone's on the bed. I recognize them. It's me. Comatose. Wires in my arms. Machines beeping. The door opens. The man in the gray windbreaker steps in. He sits next to the bed and opens a laptop. And on the screen of the laptop is this exact log I'm typing right now, which means feedback loop. I'm not in the forest anymore. The forest is in me. Or maybe I was never in the forest. Maybe this is all a simulation. A sleeper protocol that broadcasts fear in the form of memory. A seed planted through a job post, and I clicked it. And now it's growing inside you too. Because you heard it, and it's looking for the next Watchmen. Chapter 3. The Things That Watched the Watchmen. Preamble accorded incident, log entry timestamp error. Someone knocked on the station door last night. They didn't stop for 7 hours. It wasn't a person.
Act 1.
I woke to the emergency lights flickering red. The monitors were off. All of them, except Monitor 6. Monitor 6 showed the interior of this cabin, my cabin, but I wasn't in it. Instead, I saw a figure in the chair. Hunched, twitching, fingers jerking like strings being yanked. Its face was covered in a wet cloth, breathing in and out slowly. The timestamp read March 23rd, 1983, but the footage looked live, and when I looked up from the monitor, the chair across the room was empty, but it was still creaking. Act 2, Night of the Uninvited. I boarded the door, didn't sleep, just listened. The forest began imitating things. At 2:11 a.m., I heard my mother calling my name. At 2:33 a.m., it was the voice of a child begging to come inside. At 3:07 a.m., I heard myself. On repeat. Let me back in. Let me back in. Let me back in. I whispered. Who are you? The voice replied, I'm what's left after they took the rest. Act 3, Entities in the Feed. The camera feeds changed. Not what they were pointed at, but what they saw. Monitor 2, the trees were blinking. Not swaying. Blinking. Monitor 4, every frame had a different number of animals, but when played back fast, they moved. Together, like one animal wearing different skins. Monitor 5 showed a hallway with doors labeled things like room for regret, room where you died, room where you'll live next. Then one door creaked open. Inside was the station, with me in it, holding this log, writing this sentence. Act 4, Disappearance of Daylight. The sun hasn't risen in 5 days. Even the solar charger doesn't work anymore. The clock resets to 11:59 p.m. each time I look away. I tried hiking out again. After 20 minutes, I was standing in front of the station, but it wasn't my station. The sign on the door read, Observation Post Theta Null. Established January 6th, 2049. That's 24 years from now. Inside, there were photos of me, but older, tired, wearing a name tag I don't remember owning, and my eyes were gone. Not injured, not damaged, just missing. I found a phone in the supply locker. It hadn't been there before. Only one number in the call log, Clonkinol 0000000. I called it. It rang once. Then I heard my own voice answer. Operator, how long have you been under? I didn't speak. The voice continued. The watchers need a new face. Look outside. I did. And there, pressed against the window, was my face. But it wasn't attached to a body. It was just floating there, skin slack like a discarded mask, smiling. That night, I noticed my shadow moving away from me, not following, leading. I followed it, deep into the trees where the signal from the monitors went dead. There I found a staircase, ancient stone, leading down far deeper than the terrain should allow. I descended 39 steps before something shifted. Gravity twisted sideways. My breath began fogging inward as if the air was breathing me. The walls were covered in ink drawings of the station. The final one showed the building burning, and a phrase underneath, only the reflection survives. Back at the station, Monitor 3 turned itself on. Black and white feed, night vision. It showed a version of me strapped to a chair, eyes propped open, staring at a massive screen pulsing with unknown symbols. Each symbol made my ears ring. I began hearing voices again, but inside the ringing, they said, "You are being transmitted. You are a feed. You are what keeps the signal alive." 8. Echoes of the next Watchman. This morning, someone left a package at the door. Inside, a set of keys, a map labeled "Your Next Station," and a note that said, Congratulations on surviving your trial period. Trial? This was a job? I don't even remember applying anymore. Maybe I didn't. Maybe this is what happens when you click on the wrong post on the wrong night. And now, the monitors are flickering again. One is showing a new person arriving at the edge of the forest. He looks scared and familiar. I think it's you.
Or the station that dreamed of teeth. Opening, log entry. There you go.
This isn't a forest anymore. It's a sleeper. And I think I'm inside its dream. I woke up with dirt in my mouth, not metaphorically. Literal soil, packed into my cheeks like I'd been trying to bury something alive. The sink spat out pine needles when I turned the faucet. The station smells like wet stone now, and I swear the floorboards are softer than they were before. I stepped on one and it sank a little, like it exhaled. Act 1. Monitor 7 was black all morning. Then a word appeared in white serif text. It flickered once. Then the feed changed. Instead of the forest, I saw a massive white chamber underground. In the middle of it stood a man, or something like a man. He was impossibly thin, limbs too long, arms wrapped in parchment. Where his face should have been, there was just a drafting compass. He was drawing something into the dirt, a diagram. When the camera zoomed in, it wasn't blueprints. It was a floor plan of the station, but with more rooms than I've ever seen. One of them was labeled Tooth Room 2. The new room appears. That night, I heard the nails tearing. The wall behind the storage shelf began splitting open, like something was pushing from the other side. I pulled the shelf away and found a door. It had no knob, only a slit across the middle, like a mouth. A mouth made of wood and bone. When I whispered, "Let me in," the slit opened, and the room behind it was not part of the station before. It was pale, bleached clean. In the center, a tooth, 7 feet tall, rotating slowly on a pedestal of tendons. When I stepped in, I heard something inside my skull. "You were chosen for your lack of memories." I didn't know what it meant, but I backed out, and the room was gone. The things that watch sideways. Every reflection now shows a different time. The mirror over the sink shows a version of me from childhood, staring back blankly. The black screen of the TV shows me much older, with scars I don't recognize and a hole in my throat. The window reflects the forest behind me even when the curtains closed. One night, I caught a glimpse of something else in the reflection. It was watching me sideways, like it couldn't turn its head all the way. Its limbs were too narrow. Its eyes were covered with pine bark. I turned around. Nothing, but the mirror fogged up, and written in the condensation was, "You blinked before the scan completed." 3:34 a.m. The emergency radio clicked on. Not with static, with a voice. It sounded like someone talking backwards at first, then corrected itself. Forest. Quarantine status failed. Containment breached. Replacement body being assembled. Do not resist replication. Then the alarm light blinked once, and I saw something running outside the station. It was me, but not like before. It was unfolding wrong. Every step made it taller, its legs bent backward, its smile wrapped fully around the head. I hid. When it got close, I heard my own voice echo from its mouth. "Let us in. Let us finish becoming you." Act 5, the broadcast ritual. The antenna is now whispering. It emits no signal. But when I press my ear against it, I hear something chanting numbers in bursts of 3. I wrote them down. The sequence repeats. 034 118 007 007. I entered them into the keypad, the fuse box. I entered them into the keypad by the fuse box. A secret panel popped open. Inside, a reel-to-reel tape labeled "Forgotten Footage, play only when alone." So I played it. It showed a ritual, a circle of watchmen, each with a monitor in place of a head. They stood around a tree that bled when the screen static pulsed. The words "error," "God unrecognized" flashed over and over. 6, reconstructed memory fragment. The logbook started writing backwards. Whole pages filled up while I slept. I held one up to the mirror to read it. "Do you remember the interview? Do you remember saying yes? This wasn't a job. It was a broadcast audition." Suddenly it clicked. The station isn't the real job. I'm the antenna. I'm the mouthpiece, the eyes, the echo chamber. And something out there is learning to speak through me. I found a new feed on monitor 4. Not a video, an X-ray of a skeleton mine. It pulsed in real time as I moved. But the bones were changing. New ones were growing, in spirals wrapped around the spine, and the skull had a second jaw underneath. Then the X-ray blinked out, replaced by text. You are now compatible. The lights dimmed. The monitors all turned to static faces. They opened their mouths in sync and whispered in a perfect chorus, "We've replaced enough of you. You may now leave the station." But I don't want to anymore, because I think if I leave, I'll broadcast everything I've become.